From the moment Marie Antoinette arrived in France as a 14-year-old Austrian archduchess, she wasn't greeted as a young bride destined for a throne, but as a political symbol. Her marriage to the future Louis XVI was meant to secure peace between France and Austria. Yet for thousands in the French court and beyond, she represented an enemy presence. She crossed the Rhine carrying no armies or weapons, but to many she still appeared as a foreign invader. The groundwork for the propaganda war against her began long before she even reached Versailles. The French public had expectations for their future queen: beauty, piety, gentleness, and loyalty. But they also harbored suspicions: was she Austrian first, French second? The slightest misstep, the smallest rumor, the faintest whisper soon grew into seeds of distrust. And those seeds would later blossom into a garden of hatred so vast that even truth could not grow within it. Her early years were consumed by the relentless gaze of the court. Every gesture, every word, every expression was catalogued and discussed. Versailles was a palace of gold, but its social world was a labyrinth of rivalry. High-ranking nobles, who had hoped to guide the future queen, found themselves disappointed by her preference for youthful amusements rather than political maneuvering. In the salons and corridors, whispers rose like smoke. She is frivolous. She is childish. She spends too much. These criticisms alone were not lethal. But combined with the resentment of aging factions at court, they created fertile soil for more dangerous allegations. Her foreign birth, her unfamiliar accent, her difficulty adjusting to rigid court etiquette became fuel for the political fire waiting to ignite. As soon as Louis XVI ascended the throne, the transformation of Marie Antoinette from young princess to national scapegoat began with alarming speed. She was no longer just a foreign bride. She was now queen of a nation struggling with debt, famine, and political instability. French society demanded a perfect figure to represent royal virtue. Yet Marie Antoinette, with her youthful impulses and desire for privacy, couldn't live up to the impossible image imposed upon her. Her preference for informal gatherings over strict ceremonies was interpreted as arrogance. Her spending on fashion, which was exaggerated but not unusual for queens of the era, became a symbol of royal excess. They discovered that pamphlets attacking her sold better than any other genre. And so began a publishing frenzy unprecedented in French history. Thousands of booklets, caricatures, and fabricated diaries flooded the streets. They portrayed Marie Antoinette not as a queen but as a monster of immorality. They twisted her actions into vices, her friendships into conspiracies, her generosity into manipulation. They gave her cruel nicknames, mocking her origins, her habits, even her family. What made the propaganda so effective was its mixture of half-truths and outright invention. The queen's fondness for fashion became a sign of gluttonous excess. Her preference for privacy became evidence of scheming. Her close friendships became fodder for slanderous stories. Every detail of her life was distorted until the public could no longer distinguish rumor from reality. And the more the French economy suffered, the more the people searched for a face to blame. The propaganda didn't just attack Marie Antoinette's reputation, it reshaped her identity into a figure the public could hate without restraint. The libels, crude underground pamphlets, were among the most destructive weapons wielded against her. They accused her of treason and manipulations too outrageous to be believed, yet people believed them. They painted her as a seductress controlling the king, as a foreign agent funneling gold to Austria, as a conspirator plotting the downfall of France. Some pamphlets even depicted her engaging in acts that were impossible, yet these tales spread as though they were gospel truth. The more outrageous the accusation, the more eagerly the crowds consumed it. The French public, suffering from high bread prices and political frustration, found in her the perfect vessel for their anger. By the late 1780s, the propaganda war escalated to such extremes that the queen couldn't walk through her own gardens without being watched by people convinced they knew who she truly was, an illusion crafted by enemies she had never met. The affair of the diamond necklace became the most devastating blow in this war of lies. Though Marie Antoinette had no involvement in the scandal, pamphlets portrayed her as the mastermind of a plot to steal an extravagant jewel. Trials proved her innocence, but the public ignored the evidence. Caricatures appeared overnight, mocking her, vilifying her, reducing her to the image created by the libellists. The scandal reinforced every false impression the public already held, that she was greedy, corrupt, manipulative, and indifferent to the suffering of the people. Once the revolution began, The propaganda evolved from slander into a systematic campaign. Revolutionary leaders realized its power and harnessed it for political gain. They circulated posters depicting her as a beast, a witch, a monster straining to devour France. Newspapers described her as the architect of every misfortune. They claimed she plotted famine, encouraged foreign invasion, and drained the treasury. They accused her of influencing the king to veto laws and of conspiring with every foreign power in Europe. Even when she remained silent, they claimed her silence was strategic. Even when she spoke, they claimed her words were poison. She could not win. She no longer possessed control over her own story. Inside the Tuileries Palace, she felt the weight of the lies pressing against the walls. Wherever she turned, she encountered soldiers whose eyes reflected the rumors they had read. Even her attempts to protect her children were distorted into acts of political calculation. She tried to reassure France that she cared for the people, but the propaganda drowned out her voice. The flight to Varennes, a desperate attempt to escape spreading violence, was interpreted as proof that she sought to flee to foreign allies and destroy France from afar. The image of her family captured in the night became a symbol of betrayal. Pamphlets circulated within hours, presenting her as a serpent fleeing justice. The truth that she was trying to save her children was buried beneath the avalanche of printed hate. Once imprisoned in the temple, the lies took darker shapes. Her guards discussed them openly in her presence, as though she were deaf. Newspapers claimed she bathed in luxury even as she sat in a damp room with meager food. They accused her of sending secret messages despite being denied paper and ink. They invented foreign conspiracies that centered around her, claiming she was orchestrating invasions from Europe. When her son was taken away and turned against her, propaganda writers seized upon the horror, crafting stories that she had corrupted him long before. Her motherhood, which had been her greatest source of tenderness, became another weapon they used against her. By the time she was moved to the Conciergerie, the lies had grown so monstrous that even her guards looked at her with a mixture of disgust and fascination. At her trial, the courtroom transformed into a theater where the propaganda was performed as truth. Every rumor, every lie, every caricature came alive. The prosecutors drew directly from the pamphlets, treating them as evidence. They repeated slanderous stories that had circulated for years, ignoring their absurdity. The accusation involving her son, the cruelest lie of all, shocked even her enemies. When she answered with dignity, reminding the court that motherhood was a universal bond, the room fell silent. For the first time, many realized the extent of the injustice. But it was too late. The trial was merely a final act in a tragedy written years earlier. Her final journey to the scaffold was shaped by the lies that had followed her for decades. The open cart, the jeering crowds, the cold stares, they were the physical manifestation of the propaganda's success. People didn't see a widow. They didn't see a mother. They saw the monstrous figure created by political hatred and public imagination. Yet as she traveled through the streets, some noticed the truth breaking through the illusions. Her poise, her calm, her pale but composed face revealed a side of her the propaganda had hidden. Women in the crowd lowered their eyes. Men fell silent. The legend of the wicked queen paled in comparison to the reality of the exhausted, grieving woman before them. The guillotine ended her life, but it was not the blade that had destroyed her. It was the smear campaign that had followed her since youth, the relentless slander that stripped her of humanity. The propaganda war had been a slow execution one without blood, but with wounds far deeper. History has since uncovered the truth, revealing the propaganda against her as one of the most brutal campaigns ever waged against a queen. Her suffering became a reminder of how words can be weapons sharp enough to destroy reputations, families, and lives. What killed Marie Antoinette was not only the revolution, but also the stories crafted to justify her destruction. In the end, the lies inflicted upon her were more painful, more humiliating, and more enduring than the guillotine itself. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into history.